I remember, goodness, probably almost 30 years ago in the AIDS crisis in San Francisco, I went down to Ward 5 at General Hospital, which is where they had all of the young men dying of AIDS. And I went down with a person that I had met, someone quite unique. Her name was Nurse Bush, and actually she was a drag queen. And I had met her. I was out on a walk in the city, and she was dressed in a little Santa Claus nursing outfit, uh, collecting stuffed animals from people. And I was very curious as to her whole getup, dressed like that and collecting animals on the street corner. So I stopped and just had a conversation with her about what she was doing. And she told me that she had gotten AIDS, had been diagnosed with AIDS, and didn't have long to live. And she said it put her through quite a crisis in that she just didn't know what to do with her life with the last few months or so that she had left. And so she decided that she would just go down and take care of all the other guys that had AIDS, and that she would dress up in this funny drag, and that she would go down to the fifth wing or wing 5 or whatever it was called down there at General Hospital, and just go around and hand out these stuffed animals to all these young men who were, most of them, on their deathbed, and that she would just be funny, entertain them every week. And I was quite touched by that, and asked her if I could go with her on her next time down to the hospital, and she of course said yes. And I went down there and then had my own very funny experience. As the elevator doors opened at the nursing station, a couple of the nurses looked up from behind the counter and looked at me and were quite startled, and which caught me off guard, of course. And so they asked me, well, one of them stood up and said, "David, what are you doing out and about?" And I was a little confused, of course, because my name wasn't David back then, or ever actually. But I went, I went over there, and she said, "What?" And I said, I'm not David. I said, I'm here with Nurse Bush. We're just going to go around and visit the guys on the hall." And she said, no, this is amazing. She said, "Do you know David?" And I said, "No, I have no idea." And the other nurse was like, "Spitting image." And so apparently I looked just like this guy, David. And so they took me over to his room, and they pushed the door open, and I looked in, and to my astonishment, there I was laying in that bed. And when our eyes met, it was such a strange meeting, an instant rapport, instant friendship, instant intimacy, actually, because we looked exactly the same. Even to ourselves, we looked the same. I mean, we could tell that we were different, but it was uncanny how much we looked like each other. And so I sat down on the edge of Dave's bed, and we had this wonderful conversation, the likes of which I really hadn't had before because I'd never been in a situation like that before. And I was talking to him, and I said to him, I said, "Dave, I see you laying here on this bed, and you've told me that you're not leaving, that you've probably only got a week or so left." And I said, "How do you deal with that? How are you dealing with that?" And he said, "Well," he said, "when it was first happening, I was terrified. I couldn't believe it. I'm only 27, and I couldn't imagine that my life was over, that I was going to die." And he said, I was angry, I was terrified, I was frustrated, I had no idea what to do. And he said, "I've been laying in this hospital bed now for about 6 weeks, and the doctors tell me I'm not going to leave, and that I've only got a few days left." And he said to me something so beautiful that's kind of what's inspired me to want to share a poem that's coming here in a minute if I can get there. But he told me, he says, he says, "I've been laying here for 6 weeks, and I've been thinking about this, and I've been facing my dying. And he said, you know, I've gotten over the fear and the anxiety. I've really come to really accept it. And he said, you know, what has really helped me is I realized just a few days ago that in my life, I've always had a good idea of what was coming next. You know, I was a big adventurer. I loved to go skiing and mountain hiking and traveling. And he says, I used to take a lot of risks because I really enjoyed the adventure of it. And he said, but as I was laying here in my bed, I realized that all through my life, on all of my adventures, I always sort of knew what was coming next. And it always somehow leveled out the adventure of it. But he said, this time, I'm going on an adventure in a few days. And he said, for the first time in my life, I have no idea what's coming next. And he said, I realized that this is my first real adventure. And I'm looking forward to this experience. I walked away from that time that day quite changed. I thought that's how I want to go as well. Just facing it head on as an adventure. And there's this wonderful poem by Mary Oliver called When Death Comes. And it's just very inspiring and very sweet. And I thought I'd read it for you. When death comes like a hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me, and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like measle pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through that door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look about time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular. And each name, a comfortable music in my mouth, tending to, as all music does, toward silence. And each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I had made my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Enjoy your life. Find out what is true. Love is the one most important thing.